out of Atlanta, Georgia in lane 3, Drexel from Philadelphia in lane 4, San Diego State University in 5, and Western Washington University out of Bellingham, Washington in lane number 6.
And we are back up here at the start line waiting for that third heat of the men's Cal Cup. Boats are setting, our athletes are sitting easy right now as they do the final alignment. The early breeze that was coming out of the northeast has settled down. All the flags are drooping at this point. There is no breeze on the water. We start to see a little bit of our
1 in 3 inches, 2 in
ebbing tide going back out from our unusual high spring tides that we're enjoying here today. It did bring in some kelp, not as bad as it was last year, but the course officials have done a magnificent job staying on top of it, trying to keep all the kelp off the course. They continually work at that job.
3 out an inch.
But as it stands right now, it is ideal rowing conditions.
One in 3 inches, 2 in 1 inch, 3 and 4 out 2 inches.
One general comment about the men's Cal Cup, what started off to be a race for California-only crews, has expanded itself into what a great event, having Grand Valley out from Michigan and British Columbia, Georgia Tech, Drexel from Philadelphia, Western Washington. What a great event, have all these different crews from across the nation enjoying the weather here in San Diego at the San Diego Crew Classic.
1 inch. One in 1 inch.
Still working on the final alignment.
Six in 1 inch, 2 in 1 inch, 1 in 1 inch.
You may ask, why is it so difficult, or why is it so important to spend so much time on alignment? These are boats out on the water, which is a very dynamic environment. And the aligner has the responsibility to guarantee each of these athletes a fair race, to get every one of those bow balls perfectly aligned. We know how much time we spent looking at close finishes via video cameras and the rest of it. We have that same responsibility at the starting line.
We have alignment. Everybody hold.
The aligner's flag is up. It has been turned over to the starter. The starter is pulling crews. All hands are down. Flag is up, and we have a start to the third and final heat of the men's Cal Cup. Jumping out quickly is Grand Valley, British Columbia, lanes 1 and 2, and then we look outside to Drexel in lane 4, rowing in their black boat. All boats have cleared the 100-meter braking zone, and we have a very tight race between lanes 1, 2, and 3, and 4. Grand Valley, British Columbia, Georgia Tech, and Drexel. San Diego State is falling off slightly, and we look then outside to Washington State. Inside lane 1 at 36 strokes a minute is Grand Valley. Lane 2 with British Columbia seems to have pushed their bow placard out by about 2 feet. Then we look out to Drexel and Georgia Tech. At the 300-meter mark, your leader still in lane 2 is British Columbia. Opened up another seat over Grand Valley. And then Drexel, Georgia Tech, Western Washington, San Diego State. Crossing the 500-meter mark, your leader by half a canvas is British Columbia at 36 strokes per minute. Second place, Grand Valley. Third place was Drexel. Fourth, Georgia Tech. And then Western Washington and San Diego State. That is your call for the 500.
Men's Collegiate Varsity Cal Cup. This is the third run for this particular division down. We're going to be looking for the top two crews to go on to the grand final. Second two crews will go into the second tier, and the third two will round out the field. Right now, looking at lane assignments, Grand Valley State University from Allendale, Michigan, currently in our second position out of lane 1. University of British Columbia, our current leader, in lane 2. And then comes in lane 3, Georgia Tech, but they are trailing Drexel out of Philadelphia, in lane number 4. Then to the far outside, it's San Diego State University and Western Washington University out of Bellingham in lane number 6.
Well, the two leaders at the moment, Grand Valley State and University of British Columbia, they are unknown quantities so far this season. No recorded race results. Grand Valley are a club program, but a very, very strong club program. They challenge their in-state rivals, Michigan, for the ACRA Championship, the American Collegiate Club Rowing Association Championships, which will be held this year in Oklahoma City. And in lane 3, Georgia Tech. They've beaten Auburn, Clemson, College of Charleston, and Tennessee so far this year. No losses. Drexel have beaten Lehigh and Villanova in lane 4, but have one loss to LaSalle. And out in lane 5, San Diego State have that one loss in the Desert Sprints to Arizona State. Western Washington, unknown quantity so far this year.
About 1,000 meters to go. It is continuing on the lead with Grand Valley along the shoreline. They have taken over for University of British Columbia out in lane number 2. Then it's a very close race for the third position between Georgia Tech and Drexel in lanes 3 and 4. And then on the outside, it looks like that is San Diego State and Western Washington trailing. Along the shoreline, this is Grand Valley. They had the lead, relinquished it, got it back. University of British Columbia in lane number 2, and it almost goes 1, 2, 3, 4, although it's shaping up to be quite a battle for that second position between British Columbia, Georgia Tech, and Drexel. Right now on the lead, Grand Valley along the shoreline. Outside in second lane and second position, British Columbia, followed by Georgia Tech being challenged on their outside shoulder by Drexel.
I think, Alan, that Georgia Tech have actually pushed past Drexel in the middle part of the race course and are now challenging UBC for that second position. Grand Valley have taken the lead. They've gone up to 35.5, Grand Valley in lane 1, and they're maintaining that lead over UBC. UBC are trying to hold the challenge from Georgia Tech, but Drexel are coming at Georgia Tech again.
Georgia Tech trying to fight off Drexel. On the outside, these crews are in lanes 3 and 4. Along the shoreline, Grand Valley getting off to a good start, relinquishing the lead and then getting it back, is trying to hold on. University of British Columbia is in second position, but our attention will move out to Georgia Tech and Drexel. They're in lanes 3 and 4, and right now that's the order that they are in. Third place, Georgia Tech, and Drexel in fourth position. Trailing is San Diego State University, and the crew on the far outside is Western Washington. This is Grand Valley State along the shoreline, University of British Columbia. But they are having to watch right now Georgia Tech in lane number 3, settling in and not putting on too much of a push right now. Apparently comfortable with that second tier finish. Drexel on the outside. Along the shore, Grand Valley State is being challenged once again by British Columbia. British Columbia trailing by about 4 seats as Grand Valley is along the shoreline. That is British Columbia in lane number 3. It looks like Georgia Tech has fought off the challenge of Drexel and will finish in that third position. Drexel on the outside with open water back to Western Washington and quite a bit of open water back to the trailing San Diego State University. Looking at the unofficial finish along the shoreline, this will be Grand Valley, followed by British Columbia, then Georgia Tech, then Drexel to the outside. San Diego State is trailing, and then comes Washington along the far outside lane. And that's it for event number 3, the Men's Collegiate Varsity Cal Cup, the third heat here. And next up will be a women's event. This will be the Women's Collegiate Varsity Cal Cup, and this is the SeaWorld Cup that these crews will be competing for. And briefly, Sacramento State in lane number 1, Kansas State University will be pulling out of lane 3. British Columbia in lane 4, check that, in lane 3. In lane 4, Tulsa. Loyola Marymount will be in lane 5, and the University of California, Santa Barbara in 6, with the far outside lane with Central Oklahoma.
Well, hello, ladies and gentlemen. We are back up here at the start of the Women's Collegiate Varsity Cal Cup. This cup is now known as the SeaWorld Cup, and how appropriate that is, because we are right at the SeaWorld Cove and underneath the tram that connects one part of the research center to SeaWorld itself. All the boats, as they line up, are right nestled into the SeaWorld Cove with view of where Shamood performs. This is the first heat of the Women's Cal Cup. The weather is absolutely gorgeous. The flags are hanging droop. There is no breeze. The water is still, and the athletes are getting ready to start. The aligner is doing their final preparation within inches of a couple of these boats. And that's it. The flag is up for the aligner. It is now turned over to the starter. You might be able to hear in the distance the starter pulling the crews. One hand still up, final adjustment.